Hi, I'm Kevin Nelson with Infinite Lives Productions and Geek Asylum Studio, and I love podcasting. I want to show you how to podcast. If you're watching this, I imagine you either don't know how, but you've always wanted to try, or maybe you have started podcasting, but you have a lot of problems or a lot of questions. How to make it sound better, how to make it run smoother, how to get rid of issues, little problems. Is there a buzzing in the microphone, or is it the mic cable, or is it the computer fan from computer recording it, or how about we figure out these problems? So what I want to do is help you. I want to help you be able to record a podcast. I want to help you make it sound good. Can't guarantee content, that's on you, but I can help you with the technical issues, or at least a lot of them. And I want to do this cheap. This is a hobby for me, and if you're going podcast, it's probably a hobby for you. So once you make it expensive with a huge overblown budget, hobbies have a habit of becoming nightmares of fiscal, horrible, wallet-draining proportions. So let's do this cheap. Let's get a podcast recorded. And let's make it sound good. But first off, we need a location. This couch in my living room is not the right location. I mean, there's a lot of noises, a lot of sound control issues, and I don't have a microphone in front of me. I don't have a table. It's nice to have a table. You know, a table for your microphone or your computer, your laptop, whatever equipment you're using. I just have a Handycam in front of me with a built-in microphone. So let's go find a better place to record. Let's go. So one thing you will need for podcasting shouldn't cost you money, but you should think about where you're podcasting. Right now, I'm in the worst possible place. This is an empty room. There's no furniture, there is no carpet, no rug, it's bare hardwood floor, bare ceiling. The closest there is to anything is that ceiling fan back there. And I have the doors and windows closed. Great thing, keeps the outside world out of my podcast, but is also keeping this inside world bouncing all around this inside world. Doesn't sound good. So as a pointer, if talking in a room drives you crazy, and this is driving me crazy right now, don't record there. You're in the wrong room. In fact, I'd say it's better to have a room with a small amount of background noise that you can't get rid of, over a room with non-stop echoing. One sounds kind of well-ranked. This sounds annoying. So let's knock this off and get into a real environment. Now this room is more like it. You'll notice that echo chamber of doom, gone. And so this is my personal recording studio. This is a converted bedroom in my house that is still undergoing some maintenance, but this would be Geek Asylum Studio. You'll notice I have these blue acoustic foam pads up on the ceiling, the walls. There's a sound dampening drape on the back window. Pretty much things that get rid of harsh echoes, including I have hardwood floors, but I also have rugs on them. That helps. Anything that gets rid of any smooth, hard, flat surfaces is perfect. It'll help you out immensely. So test out different rooms. See if you could find a room where you could set up a computer or a laptop and it doesn't echo. And if you want to know if it echoes or if it will interfere, test out recording, or better yet, just speak in the room before setting things up. If it sounds like it's echoing if you're speaking, it's going to echo on the microphone. So this room works. Living rooms can work okay. If you have a computer room, that usually will work. You just need something without those smooth, hard, flat surfaces. So now that we have a room, let's get into recording. But first, we need equipment, don't we? And once again, like I said, on the cheap. So we're going to do this the cheap way. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You record some audio, let's crack out the wireless lavaliers, let's crack out the soundboard, let's crack out some mics. Ooh, pop filter. Oh, that is not... No, I said on the cheap. Don't worry, we aren't going there. Not on this episode. Maybe on another episode we'll look at equipment. And I mean the higher end equipment. For now, that's what I'm talking about. A webcam. And odds are you probably have a webcam. If you have a laptop, guess what? They're built into almost every laptop. If you don't have a webcam, or your laptop doesn't have one, you have a desktop, you could pick up a webcam that will do decent audio recording for a very low price. You can get them for 20, 30 bucks. This one here has pretty damn good microphone on it, and it set me back somewhere around 60 or 70 bucks. So I consider that on the cheap. Of course, not on cheap, you need a computer or a laptop. And, well, hopefully you already have one. If not, I can't help you with the cheap part there, because you're looking at hundreds. But if you do have one, which I think you probably do, we're about ready to get started. And no, I'm not going to look at options like using an iPhone or an iPad or something like that. We're doing this PC-based. We're going Windows on this because it's what I have. I'm not going to teach you necessarily the only way. I'm just going to teach you the way I've learned and what worked really well for me. So let's start diving into software. And don't worry, like I said, cheap. In fact, free. Alright, now that you've got your hardware all set up, you have your webcam, you have your laptop, all of that good stuff, you're in a room that you feel comfortable with, it's time to get some software. You're going to want to get Audacity. It's free. Like I said, we're doing free. We're doing cheap. We're doing this the easy way to start. The sound isn't going to be perfect start, but at least you're not going to be invested heavily financially until you know you want to do this. So get Audacity. A lot of professionals use it. Pretty much, I guess 95 or more % of the amateurs use it. Pick it up at web.audacityteam.org. Or go to a file share site if you want to ask.com toolbar, but you don't want that. Get from the real site. And while you're downloading and installing that, it's time to get LAME. LAME is an MP3 encoder for Audacity. Without it, you can't make an MP3, which means you can only listen to your recorded audio in Audacity, which means it's not portable. You're not going to share it with anyone. So grab LAME. If you don't get it now, when you try and encode your MP3, Audacity is going to yell at you until you get LAME. So pick up LAME. You may have some issues installing it, possibly. There's a lot of great tools on this website to actually sort it out. Now, we're done with getting things set up. It's time to actually do this. Let's record a podcast. Alright, we're all set to record. What you're looking at right here is Audacity. Audacity is very simple and very friendly. So, we are going to have a new project. We're going to record us a podcast on it. Sound like a plan? Cool. Let's just dive right in it. No, we're not recording a podcast yet. Very first thing you do, a mic check. So, I'm recording on Audacity using this mic in front of me, right here. But I'm still on the webcam because I want you to hear what it would sound like to be on a webcam for a podcast. So, like I said, cheap. We want to go cheap and easy on this, right? We don't know for sure we want to keep podcasting. So, first thing, you need to do a mic check. So, you'll talk into the mic and be like, hey, how's it going? And what you see are some peaks and valleys forming in front of me. You want to talk at your normal talking, your normal volume, normal way of speech? I don't like this. So this looks almost good, but you can use this mic or this recording volume up here, the meter at the microphone, and you can use that to adjust your mic volume when you're using a webcam. What you want to make sure you avoid, since I'm not using the webcam for this, I have a soundboard. What you want is you want your sound to look a little taller. So if you're podcasting, you want to look actually a little bit like this. This looks good. I could talk. Oh, and I laughed, and you'll notice the peaks remain within this meter. They might touch the edge, but they're not exploding off the edge. That's important. If you have things too loud, you might have something that looks a little more like this. And problem is, when you play it back, you get something that looks a little more like this. And problem is, when you play... sounds like I'm in a drive-through speaker. That sounds horrible. So then you turn it back down. Okay, so now we're real good, right? Everything's perfect. We're within the limits of this meter right here. I don't want to go too technical on things. We'll just call it the meter. We're within it. Wait, no, this is really quiet, isn't it? So now we're real good, right? I can't even hear that. You may see this button, gain, which is the volume for the track. You might go, I'll turn it up. So now we're real good, right? Everything's perfect. We're within. The volume's sounding better, but now the sound is once again sounding like a drive-through speaker box. Don't play with the gain button. Not for podcast recording. Don't play with it. So you want to do a sound check to make sure you're looking pretty good. Not quite there. So how about if I talk like this? Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I can podcast at this volume. I'm all set. Sound check passed. Remember, you'll be playing with this meter up here. I keep it at a set level because it's what my soundboard works best with. 0.96. You'll use whatever's appropriate. So when you're ready to record, first thing you do is shut the hell up for a second. And reason you do that is once you're done recording your podcast. So, on this podcast, blah, 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 yada, yada, and thanks for listening. Catch you next time. Okay, we recorded. Small problem. You don't hear it. But if you grab your headphones, where the sound is trapped on your ears, guess what? When you listen to this podcast being played back, this section right here, you're going to hear, if you look up here, there's a little bit of sound going on. So one thing you could do is analyze and go plot spectrum. And you'll see where all of the sound frequencies are. If you see a bump somewhere, usually it'll be on the right-hand side. That's a high-pitched buzz, usually caused by a bad cable or something. And what you could do is get rid of it. We'll go into if you have a spike here. I'm thinking on a different show. It's a little convoluted. It's a little above beginner podcast level. But what you could do is take this right here, highlight this blank spot, go to Effect, Noise Reduction, and get that noise profile. Then you want to select all. You want to do Effect, Noise Reduction, and you want to get rid of this. So this will cut out that sound frequency or those frequencies in that part that you selected for a profile by 12 decibels, which will pretty much knock that down. Look, up here. Ain't nothing going on. That's because I got rid of that sound. Now that you have that taken care of, get rid of that. It's gone. Who cares? Who needs it? Another thing, so let's go to something I whipped up earlier. Here's that quiet part. And we, let's say, got rid of that sound issue. All right, that looks good. We'll get rid of that because who wants to start a podcast with 3 seconds of silence, dead air is bad air. There's still some dead air here. And that looks a little big. I mean, this right here is a good couple of seconds of, yeah, that's bad air. So you can either find those in your podcast, but if your podcast is long, let's say an hour, and you have this little 2 or 3 second dead air repeating every 30 seconds, that's a lot of dead air to track down and trim down. So instead, we could truncate silence. It'll start on truncate detected silence. I like compress excess silence. What you do is you pick what level silence is. We'll just call it anything that's minus 40 decibels or more. Or I should say, decibels are a weird thing. Just pick minus 40. It's a default. I like picking, default for this is half a second. I like 1 second. You might have a half-second pause when you punctuate your words. But you're not always doing that. But 1 second is pretty long. And then you could compress to a certain amount. So what do you want to compress it down to? So if you compress, you'll notice a little shift right there. On the other hand, you know what we'll do? We'll shift this to 0.5, keep it how it was to begin with. And you'll notice everything, when I undo, redo, you'll see everything scooting on in, and we just cut out 2 seconds of a 30-second podcast. Because there's a lot of dead air when, if you're on your own especially, sorry about that, something stuck in my throat for a second. Oh wait, that was dead air right there. So use the compress silence, or truncate silence under the tools. It'll get rid of that. Or at least it'll cut it down so it doesn't sound so bad to the listener. All right. You know what you've been doing this whole time, right? You've been saving your project. So you save your project as something. I have this set up as test. So I don't need to save as. I'll just do save. All good. And save between each thing that you do to alter your podcast. If you ever find Audacity hanging, and it can, give it a minute. It usually comes back. But you're going to want to make sure you give it a little time and treat it nicely. And you're going to save a lot just in case Audacity doesn't treat you nicely. And that'll make you happy. Trust me. Then after that, it's time to export the audio as an MP3. Your podcast is done. It is edited. You listened with headphones while editing, and it sounds pretty darn good, or as good as it can, at least quality-wise. I know your voice is annoying you. No one likes their own voice. Don't worry. You sound fine. You sound good. So let's export audio. You did install LAME, right? If you did, you should be all good. But if not, install it. Make sure you go Edit, Preferences, Libraries, and up here is MP3 Export Library. You're going to want to point it to where you have LAME. It'll be lame_enc.dll. Make sure you have that good, because this next step requires LAME to be installed. You export your audio, it's an MP3 file. Podcasts are MP3s. That's what you want them to be. Don't mess with the formula. It works good. It works great. So, save. Yeah, I know it already exists. I already made it earlier. So, what you want to do is put in info on this. These are the meta tags. This is on any MP3 that is produced correctly. It'll tell the details about what people are listening to. Once you've made some, you'll have like artist name, Infinite Labs Productions. When we do Infinite Labs podcast, we are Infinite Labs Productions. That's the artist. Track title, Infinite Labs Podcast number 116. And I'll change that according to what episode I'm on. You may have actual names for it. Let's say this could be, if this was a podcast, learning how to podcast the basics. Saying like that. Album title. It's your album. I just pick whatever your podcast name is. You could do whatever you want. I'm just offering advice here. Track number. Episode 116. What year? Hopefully you know the answer to that one. I mean, come on. Genre. There's pre-made genres. Podcast usually isn't one of them, but I make it as podcast. Then you want to save those tags, because if you're going to keep doing this, you don't want to have to remember what they were every time. You want to be able to reload them up like I did here. So I go load up, and then once you have it correct, click OK. If you have a long podcast, that's going to take a while. On my laptop, it takes about 4.5 minutes to encode a 2-hour podcast, at which point the computer or Audacity then hangs and says not responding for about 1.5 minutes, and then it's all good. If Audacity freezes, give it a chance. It's working hard. Audacity is a workhorse. So, it's all good. You made it. You saved it. And now, let's go ahead and find out where I saved it to. Actually, I know where I saved it to. I saved it in here. We're going to load it up. You don't need to listen to the whole thing.
Whatever podcast this is, I'm doing
Headphones.
an intro and blah, 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 and yada, yada, and here's a podcast.
Just listen to a little bit. Make sure it still sounds good. No buzzing, no hissing, no excess problems. Now that it sounds good, delete it. You don't have to. This is my advice, and this is a good thing to consider. Delete it. Please. Your first podcast, you're going to stumble, you're going to ramble, you're going to get lost in trains of thought that aren't appropriate. I mean, you're going to be talking about, like, the weather out there. I mean, it's been bright. Whoa, where am I going with this? So, consider deleting the first one, and then re-record it. You're now comfortable in front of the mic. I mean, this thing, it's frightening at first. I don't know what it's going to do to me, but now I'm comfortable. It's my buddy. I know what it's going to do. It's going to record for me. It's going to be cool. So, my advice, get rid of the first podcast. You're going to not feel right. I've even heard advice of delete your first 3 podcasts and then start from scratch. And when you start from scratch, don't forget, you're going to want to check out that plot spectrum, make sure everything looks good. You're going to want that blank spot where you're going to do a noise reduction, get the profile, you're going to highlight it all, you're going to get rid of all that noise from it, you're going to delete that blank spot, you're going to go in and truncate your silence. If you have any coughs, you're going to delete those, find those manually. If you're recording and let's say you do that, you could get rid of it. Just highlight the cough, delete. But you can also, if you're recording, and I feel this cough coming on right now, pause, and then I could just resume from there. Don't do that too often. Pausing with Audacity, you are running a risk of trouble. Also, if you ever record and you have to stop, make sure you don't just hit record to resume, because otherwise you're going...
whatever podcast.
Damn it. I hate when I talk over myself. You're going to record on a new track at the beginning of your selection. So if right now you're there and you hit record and now you're, oh, whoa, that's getting weird. So how about if you hold shift and hit record, you will continue from where you left off, and then you could stop again. You could resume again with shift and record, and there you go. You could just keep going through that. But your podcast is done. You've cleaned it up. Everything's good. You made an MP3 of it.
give it to a friend. Give it to a friend with same interest, a coworker, family member, somebody who could give you some real, honest feedback. Feedback is a very good thing. You know, if the people who like you, even if they're honest, they still are going to be friendly. If they can't listen to it, then you've got a problem. But if they enjoy it, you might be ready to actually step up your game. But for now, you recorded your first podcast. You got rid of the bad noises in it. You tracked down where your audio problems are. You truncated all those dead air silences. You made it sound good. The volume is good because you're not way too loud where you're muffled. And you're not so quiet that no one can hear you. You want to make sure your podcast sounds at a good volume and people will enjoy it a lot more. People listen to podcasts when they're walking down the street, when they're, oh no, I stream in my car while I'm driving on the freeway at 60. Road noises will block out quiet podcasts. When I'm walking down a street in downtown Seattle, that street sweeper or metro bus or whatever that just drove by, I couldn't hear what you said because you were dead quiet. So make sure you get set up good. Don't play with the gain unless you have to, unless you're going to try and add some flavor. This here would be an Infinite Labs podcast. It'd be number 138. And what I do is I record the podcast. Notice the good peaks and valleys on the meter. I throw in some intro music beforehand. I throw in an intro before that, which is recorded last. And the intro will review what we talked about on podcasts. So if somebody's listening to a bunch of them in a row and they're like, did I listen to this one? Oh, the intro, the first 20 seconds told me, yes, I have. I also have down here a little flavor music in background during the intro. Here I do play with the gain because I want the volume of that music in the background. So if you listen to it,
Tonight on the Infinite Labs podcast, John.
You hear the music a little, so it makes the intro a little more punchy, but you hear the intro. You don't need to do this. It's the way I add some flavor, but it's a good thing to do if you want to add a little style, add a little signature. It's your podcast. Own it. Live it. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Just remember one thing. Don't pirate music for it. Because if you're going to try and do this regularly, you do not want it built on a cornerstone of, yeah, so my intro music is Welcome to the Jungle from Guns N' Roses, because that's illegal. Don't do that. Keep in mind what copyright laws are wherever you're at. In the US, there's fair use. That's not fair use. Even if you cut it down to like a 15-second clip, that is not fair use. Get permission for music. I'll show you in a future episode how to make music if you want. I'll also show you in a future episode how to step up your game when you're ready for more people. Because you can't keep doing it with the webcam. Unless you want to squeeze a bunch of people in real tight shoulder to shoulder in front of the cam. You can't do it that way. So in a next episode, I'm probably going to show you some equipment. And we're going to step up your game. It doesn't have to be expensive. It will cost some money, though. I mean, you can't get equipment for free unless you're lucky and have somebody who has a bunch of audio equipment. So, thanks for watching. Record a podcast. Have fun with it. Share it with a friend after you delete that first one. And if you have any trouble, contact me. I am more than happy to help out. Check out the email address right down there. I'm probably pointing wrong, but it's down there. Send me any questions if you need any help. I'm more than happy to help. This is a fun pursuit. It's a great creative freedom. Like, it really helps to just be a great outlet for whatever's going on in your mind. If you're not a writer, it's a good way to still share your expressions, your impressions, your emotions, your passions, your angers, your hatreds, your whatever you have. It's a great way to just get out there. Even if you only have one listener, let's say you have just one good friend who listens. Hey, could be a lot of fun. So once again, thanks for watching this video. Get out there and try it. You'll have a lot of fun with it. And I'll see you next time when we hopefully talk about equipment. Have a good night, everyone. Have fun podcasting.